Steering, antitrust. Oh my God, don't talk about it. Don't talk about anything that is relevant to real estate brokers and realtors because that is scary. Folks, that's some of the talk since I was on stage at NAR's mid-year meetings on Monday. And a little bit of action came up in the room, and since then, a gentleman by the name of Hahn, who's somewhat of an industry hater for many, many years, sent out a tweet that I'm going to show you in a minute, and then I'm going to tell you what really happened. But first, let me tell you some other things I'm going to go over. I'm going to get into, in much more depth, what fiduciary duties are. I'm going to talk a little bit about steering and what steering actually is. I'm going to talk about how the new date that things go into effect with the settlement is August 17th. Zillow came out with a touring agreement. Will Fannie and Freddie and FHA ever allow the financing of commissions? That's a question that's come up. And folks, remember what I've been saying since October? The new system was going to be harder on first-time buyers, veterans in particular, right? Well, guess what? A news company down in South Florida did a story on it with a veteran in it, and the veteran said exactly what I've been saying since October. Then I'll also give you a litigation update. So let's jump to this tweet by Hahn, okay? Multiple confirmations now of a major brouhaha at NAR mid-year meetings at the MLS Policy Committee. Apparently, there was a masterclass taught by Anthony Lamacchia on how to engage in steering, which led to a number of MLS execs declaring that they are leaving the room in light of all of the antitrust advice being given and walking out. Maybe Mr. Lamacchia wants to remind me again how I don't understand what steering is. Okay, folks, where do I start? The amount of lies, exaggerations, and just things that aren't anywhere near accurate in this tweet. And funny enough, right before I was starting to film a half an hour ago, about 9 people texted me that Mr. Hahn put out one of his long blogs. That's what he does, sits home all day and writes long blogs. And I read through it, and honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't really feel like it was necessarily an attack on me, even though my name was in the subject. One part really got me frustrated, though, and this leads into what I'm going to say when I pick apart the tweet. After the panel, Lamacchia was hustled out of the room, surrounded by NAR handlers so that no one could ask him questions. That is 100% false. That's a complete lie. If anyone told him that and he typed it, they're lying to him. His sources are wrong. If anyone even told him that, I tend to doubt they did, because anyone that was in the room know that nothing of the sort happened. So let's talk for a few minutes about what really happened, okay? I'm on stage, and I'll admit I don't want to say I was late getting in there. It was supposed to start at 11:50 or 12:50, and it started 10 minutes early, okay, at 40 past the hour. I'm outside on the phone dealing with a family problem. I get called in. I rush to stage. Everybody's up there. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm late to be on the panel. I sit down. There's a podium next to me, and the gentleman who was running it, Ryan, who did a terrific job, was close to me. So I have a view of the entire audience. There's at least 1,000 people in the room. I sit down. I'm a little flustered, right? But it was okay. He asked me a question. Others chimed in. Others on the panel did terrific. Then he came back to me and he asked, Anthony, something to the effect of, don't quote me on the words, but it's something to the effect of, Anthony, you've been quoted as talking about the importance of fiduciary duties. Can you answer as a broker how you handle that with your agents and how you recommend that other brokers handle it? So what I went on to discuss is something very similar to what I had done in an RIS Media webinar back in, I want to say, January. And that was the beginning of Hahn really jumping all over me and saying that I was promoting steering, which is completely false. But what I did is I went on to explain how brokers should make sure to teach and preach that agents should always adhere to their fiduciary duties. And I'm going to get deep into fiduciary duties in a couple minutes. But as long as agents are acting with the interest of their clients in mind, best interest in mind, and operating that way, they will be okay. And what I did is I brought up a hypothetical question. And when I say hypothetical, this is actually a question that agents are getting. And what I pointed out is I said how listing agents are being a little bit forgotten. Everyone keeps talking about buyer agents, buyer agent conversations that they have to have with buyers, but they're kind of forgetting, hey, listing agents are getting questioned by sellers. And when a listing agent gets a question from a seller like, hey, I don't really want to offer compensation, or I read an article in the New York Times, should I have to offer it? That listing agent has a duty to explain to the seller what they feel is in the best interest of the seller. And most experienced listing agents who have been in the business a long time, like me, I don't list anymore, I don't sell anymore, but I sold thousands of properties, okay? When I started in the business in the first 6 or 8 years, look up my stats if you question any of it. When you get asked these questions from a seller, what should I do to improve my curb appeal? Is there anything around the home that I should fix? What should the price be? Those are all conversations related to getting the seller the most money. Well, guess what, folks? Now part of that conversation is more so, and I don't want to say now, I should be careful there. It was always part of the conversation, offering cooperating brokerage compensation. There were always sellers who brought it up and questioned it. But is there a few more now? Yes. Will there be dramatically more post-August 17th? Of course. So if a seller asks that question, a good listing agent, right, and this is my opinion, other listing agents may have different opinions, but I doubt it, is going to explain to the seller that, hey, if you don't either proactively offer compensation or you don't at least have a willingness to have a discussion about compensation, should it be in the offer that you receive on your home, there's going to be some buyers that are going to be turned off from your home. Furthermore, buyer's agents who are doing their job, and I'm going to show you because I'm going to read the fiduciary duties to you. A buyer agent who's doing their job has an obligation to explain these things to a buyer. Not once they see a home and want to make an offer. Not once they make an offer and after, oh, by the way, we got to talk about my fee. No. Compensation conversations should be happening before any of that. Heck, even before showings. But a buyer's agent has an obligation to let people know if there's anything up with a property. What if it has a failed septic and the buyer doesn't have the money to come out of pocket for a failed septic or a failed well? Or what if the house has something to it that will make it not pass an FHA guidelines to get an FHA loan? Buyer's agent's obligated to give the buyer a heads up about that. Same holds true with commissions now. Remember, we're going to have a country full of buyers that are under buyer agency agreements and buyer contracts. The awareness that buyers are going to have of compensation is going to be up dramatically. And frankly, I think that's a good thing. But stay with me here. That's going to have it so that's going to create more buyers asking questions. I'm going to get into that further later. Okay? The person you're watching right now has been a huge proponent of buyer agency agreements and has been teaching and preaching buyer contracts and buyer agency agreements both in the company, in my own company, right? I'm trying to talk in the third person, and nationally through our Crush It in Real Estate company for years. Okay? I have a much better understanding of the questions that come up surrounding buyer agency agreements because of my experience. I was going to wait till later, but I'll tell you now. Folks, our agents at our company and our training customers are getting thousands upon thousands of buyer agency agreements and buyer contracts signed annually. Since 2012, obviously less than when my company was smaller, now more. So don't tell me that I'm unaware of real questions that will come up in the real world. I'm not an MLS executive. I'm not an attorney, though I have them on staff. I'm someone who was a realtor in the street dealing with buyers and sellers. I'm someone who deals with realtors in the trenches every day. I know the questions they get asked. I know the things they're going to be hit with, and that's all I was explaining. Let me get back to what went on in the room. So as I was giving this example about when a broker gets that question from an agent who talks about getting a hypothetical or a real question from a seller, as I was explaining that, and I was about halfway through, I do recall hearing a little bit of noise to my right, but I couldn't totally see because the podium was in my way. And I kind of remember doing this, screwed up my train of thought a little bit. Then I noticed this gentleman, Charlie, I forget his last name, from NAR, started lurking in front of the desk, but I didn't know who he was. I've never met the man. Threw off my train of thought a little bit. I haven't seen any video or any recording of what I said, but I would suspect that the last 10 or 15 seconds probably wasn't explained as eloquently as I normally explain. Luckily, God gave me the ability to talk on camera, talk in front of crowds, and talk on the news. But I too am human, and it's possible that in the last 10 seconds, as I was trying to explain and looking at him, and I turned to him as he came on stage and I said, "Am I making you nervous?" And he said, no, I just want to make sure that the crowd realizes that he said something like this, again, don't quote me, that you're referring to the consumer having a choice. And I said, well, of course, I'm talking about the buyer having a choice and the buyer being aware of what's going on with what property. Of course, he said, okay, I understand that. I just want to make sure the audience realizes that. Now, this gentleman, Charlie, couldn't have been nicer. I mean, I could tell that he was very hesitant to do it. I wish he didn't do it, and I said that to him after when I went to him. He didn't come to me. He didn't escort me out of the room. I went to him and he goes, "Hey, want to talk outside?" I said, "Sure." As I was following him out of the room, about 5 people looked at me and went, and one woman very nicely said, "I loved your comments." In addition to that, as I was explaining and as I got interrupted by Charlie, my phone started going off and I'm looking down and it was people in the room texting me. When others started speaking, I looked through the text. One of them actually said to me, "Dead ass right." I thought that was funny. It was a fellow broker owner. I'll never say who, ever in my life. But I got a lot of compliments from people in the room. I walk out of the room on my own, no handlers around me. This notion that Rob keeps trying to come up with, that I'm the NAR spokesperson or I'm a leader, I'm the leader or quasi-leader of NAR is a bunch of crap. No one did that. There was nothing dramatic. I walked out of the room. I talked to Charlie. I told him point blank that I don't think he should have done that because even though he did it very nicely, it made it look like I did something wrong. He said, "I understand that." And then he's told me a few things that he was just trying to be careful for. I'm not going to get into my private conversation with him. He was a perfect gentleman. But we discussed it. I walked away. I went up the escalator. I talked to multiple people. Multiple people said, "I loved your comments in the MLS meeting. You're always the one that brings up things that we really need to be talking about." And many people said, truthfully, this is NAR's problem. I heard this for 4 days. Well, I didn't hear it for 4 days. I heard it there, and I've heard it in the last 48 hours. This is NAR's problem. They're always so damn nervous about everything. Folks, never, ever, when I was on stage, did I promote the idea of steering. Did I promote the idea of a buyer's agent steering? Did I promote the idea of a listing agent scaring their seller into offering compensation or offering a higher amount of commission? Never. I never even touched on that. Now, maybe the person that made a little noise, and oh, by the way, I heard 3 people left the room. I've independently verified that from many because I didn't actually see it. It was a room that was full. There was people standing in the back, over 1,000 people, I would estimate. But I did hear 3 left. Those 3 people, maybe they thought I was going down that road. Maybe they thought I was already down that road. Well, if they did, I want to tell all 3 of you, I think I don't know who you are, but I heard it was a president of a board in Texas. I recommend you watch the rest of this video because maybe I can help you look at this in a different manner. Because the way that you're viewing it or the way that you viewed my statements were either taken out of context, misunderstood, or truthfully, and I mean no disrespect in saying this, you don't understand how it works. Okay? Just because some of you in that audience were MLS executives or attorneys doesn't mean you actually understand fiduciary duties at the depth that I do. And it certainly means you don't understand what it's like to be a realtor getting questioned or be a broker getting questioned by your agents. Totally different thing. So I hope that helps everyone understand what really went on in the room, because that was it, folks. This was a great panel. Ryan did a terrific job. There was another broker owner up there, Ken Fears, an NAR long-timer who I've done a lot of work with. The guy was great. Person next to me, I can't think of her name. She was tremendous, talking about fair housing. This was a great panel. The room was full. No one left, except 3 people, I'm told. And this has turned into something it's not. Now, why has it? Well, I suspect it's because Mr. Hahn has a problem with me. And he has had a problem with me because I have a tendency to be on the side of defending NAR because I know they're trying as hard as they can. I know they've done all they can. Am I happy with every decision they make? No. Do I tell them that privately? Yes. I'm not shy. Am I happy with every little thing like what happened the other day with Charlie coming up? No. But that's okay. The overarching picture of what the National Association does is good for real estate agents across the country. And that's why I tend to be on their side. But Rob doesn't like that because Rob has made a career out of criticizing NAR, criticizing the way MLSs do business, and it's unnecessary. So even though there are other real estate trainers out there, some as well known as me, some better known than me, who have made this exact point about the offering of compensation, Rob hasn't attacked any of them. I'm not going to out them and mention their names because some are friends, some are competitors. I'm not going to do that. But the reason Rob chooses to come after me is I'm the one that took on Catchmark on behalf of every real estate agent in America. I'm the one that took on Catchmark on behalf of every defendant, even though I'm not a defendant, because nobody would stand up to the guy personally. Okay, folks, I do what I do because I believe in our business, because I believe in real estate agents, because I care about buyers and sellers. That's why I do it. Do I peripherally get a larger following and all that? Yes. But folks, I have news for you. I own a company that I built from nothing, and we do millions upon millions of dollars a week in revenue. If I didn't do this, that wouldn't change very much. So I don't really do it for selfish reasons. But Rob attacks me and he attacks everybody else for 15 years and no one gives it back to him because they're worried about him writing a blog about them. Rob, here's my message to you. Send out all the tweets you want, put out all the blogs you want, but just know I'm not like everybody else and you know that. And I see you put in here, it's not personal, this and that, let's let it end here. I get it, you're throwing me some peace signals. Okay, point taken, I somewhat appreciate that. All right? But if you attack our industry, you attack what's good for buyers and sellers, you attack realtors, real estate agents, and you attack me, I'm going to come back at you. Okay? That's how I roll. I'm unapologetic. I don't care who I piss off. Doesn't matter to me. Now, Rob and everyone else, keep watching. It's time that we go into what fiduciary duties actually are. The last this got updated was 2013, and this morning, my general counsel and I compared it to the 1986 version, and it hasn't changed. I don't think what has happened will make it change, but let me walk you through it. Duty of loyalty, duty of confidentiality, disclosure, obedience, reasonable care and diligence, and accounting. I'm going to hone in for you right now on loyalty. Take a look at the second sentence. We're going to highlight it and bring it out on the screen. This duty obligates a real estate broker to act at all times solely in the best interest of his principal to the exclusion of other interests, including the broker's own self-interest. Absolutely, positively, the way it ought to be. Now I'm going to skip to disclosure. This is where it gets more detailed. I'm going to jump to the middle of the sentence. All relevant and material information that the agent knows and that pertains to the scope of the agency when representing a seller, ready? Look at the fourth bullet. Information concerning the ability or willingness of the buyer to complete the sale or to offer a higher price. Think about that. This is when talking to a seller. I'll read it again. Information concerning the ability or willingness of the buyer to complete the sale or to offer a higher price. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If there is something the seller is doing that affects the buyer's ability to buy their home or for the buyer to pay as much as they are willing or want to pay, it is the obligation, it is the duty of disclosure for the listing agent to explain that potential. Moving down more. Last bullet point, any information that might affect the seller's ability to obtain the highest price and best terms in the sale of the property. Isn't that what I just said? Isn't that what I've explained in multiple videos, in webinars, including on RIS Media, on multiple stages, including at Housing Wire 2 weeks ago, okay? Including at NAR earlier this week. I'll read it again. Any information that might affect the seller's ability to obtain the highest price and best terms in the sale of his property. When a seller's asking about curb appeal, pricing, commissions, it has to be answered honestly. Disclosure is of the utmost importance. An agent who doesn't explain that is violating their fiduciary duty. Now, if Mr. Hahn or anyone else, Katie Johnson at NAR, or anyone else wants to tell me or show me proof that fiduciary duties have changed because of this silly, ridiculous lawsuit, okay, show me. Maybe I would change my opinion then. But we all know they shouldn't change because these duties are paramount. There's something that every one of us realtors should carry as a badge of honor, and we should always do what's best on behalf of our clients, regardless of how it affects us with status or with money or anything. If agents are doing their job, they're talking to sellers and buyers about these things. And folks, now in the new environment, they have to talk to sellers and buyers about these things even more. And they have to explain that. So if someone doesn't like that has to be explained when a seller asks or proactively, then you better look at what we're doing here with this whole thing. Because you can't violate a fiduciary duty to a client. Now moving on to when representing a buyer, which is the opposite side of the hypothetical example that I've given multiple times, including on Monday in Washington, D.C. Take a look, stay with me. A real estate broker representing a buyer is obligated to reveal to the buyer, I'm going to jump to the last bullet so I don't bore you with all of them, any information that would affect the buyer's ability to obtain the property at the lowest priced and on the most favorable terms. Now, you could get a little confused with lowest price, doesn't matter. Any information that would affect the buyer's ability to obtain the property, those things have to be explained. They have to be. And those are open conversations that are going to happen. So for you lawyers out there, folks at the DOJ, all of you, if you're confused about that or you still think after what I just went over that I'm wrong, we've got a problem, folks. You know why? Because there's too many damn cooks in the kitchen, too many hands in the pot that don't understand how it really works. I will sit down with my general counsel, my outside counsel, who, by the way, reviewed this as well several months ago, along with our in-house counsel. We'll get with any lawyers from anywhere. Get in a room and let's discuss it, because conversation is what's going to solve problems. Tweets like Rob's tweets, blogs like Rob's, they create confusion. Okay, and I know why he does it. Now he's going to get more Twitter followers. He's probably going to get more blog subscribers. Why, I don't know. This guy's never been a realtor, never been a broker owner, never been someone that's in a position to deal with this stuff directly, but somehow he's fooled some people into thinking he's an expert. Okay, I'm an expert, and I have the data to back it up. Okay, anybody wants to question me, go in MLS and look at our company. Go look at my sales record. Go Google my name. See how much business we do. Okay, I'm not perfect. I don't have everything perfect, but I have the wherewithal and the understanding of how things work in the real world to be able to guide people correctly. And anyone that wants to question me on it, that's okay. I'm not knocking you if you want to question me on that, but I think you better think about it a little because I'm in the real world. Now let's talk about steering for just a couple of minutes, okay? We pulled our general counsel, who, by the way, Michael McDonough, our general counsel, okay? He was the Mass Association of Realtors general counsel for several years, and he was of counsel there for 15 years. This guy knows the rules inside out, upside down, and I would put him up against anyone in the country on all of this. He approves everything that I go over. Him and I discuss it all. I'll move on. Steering. Mike asked me to show this. So this is a complaint that was filed November 19th against NAR, I believe from the DOJ, I believe. Buyer brokers may in fact steer potential home buyers away from properties with low commission offers by filtering out, failing to show, or denigrating homes listed for sale that offer lower commissions than other properties in the area. When the hell did I ever say that? Never. Never have I promoted anyone saying to do any of that. Doing any of that is disgraceful. Any realtor who does that should get out of the business or be kicked out of the business, okay? But that is the words right there in the complaint from the DOJ. They describe what it is. Nowhere near anything that I described in DC or RAS Media or Housing Wire or any of my videos that I've done. And we thought it would be smart for me to point that out. Thank you. I also want to show something briefly from this gentleman, Stephen Brobeck, from the Consumer Federation of America. This is a comment that he's put out, and this is the guy that I've said is clearly in Ketchmark's corner, and somehow, some way, the Consumer Federation of America will get a donation from this case someday. Remember, I said that, and I'll put out a video saying I told you so, as I promised before. But stay with me. It's critically important that buyers negotiate buyer-agent commissions before their agents search for properties. Otherwise, buyer agents could steer buyers to properties with the highest dollar concessions and potential agent compensation. Okay. He's saying have conversations before. That's correct. That's what I'm saying. On that, he's right. He's wrong on a lot of other things, including his support of this case. But he's right on that, and I wanted to point it out. Next up, James Dwiggins. This guy's very smart. Owner and founder of Next Home. They've got franchises all over the country. He and I have really been on more stages than anybody, and he brought that up at Housing Wire. He said there should be more people speaking out, not just Anthony and I, and he's right about that. But one of the things that James says that I find interesting is and I give him credit, he's optimistic, he's tenacious, and he says, why doesn't Congress get together and force Fannie and Freddie and FHA, et cetera, to allow the financing of agent commissions? Now, at the Housing Wire conference 2 weeks ago in Phoenix, I heard that and I said, James, I love your attitude here. I love what you're pointing out. I'm just not as optimistic. I don't think they'll do that. Their charter by law from the Treasury specifically states that they are to do asset-based lending, lending on homes. Lending for commissions is muddying the waters, but I wanted to throw that out there because I wanted my following here, everybody to give a look at that, because maybe James has a good point there. I think he has a point on the idea. I'm just a little more pessimistic. If you don't know James or you don't follow him, look it up. He puts out great stuff. Next, veteran buyer. I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to mention it again. We are going to put a link to this. Actually, a link to it in an image is already on recases.com. Great story. WSVN television down in Miami put out last week. Well, let me take that back. Sad story, but good reporting is what I meant by that. They put a story out and they put a veteran in it who said, I was so excited to be able to use what I can from the Veterans Affairs for the loan, and I can't use it. Now I have to pay out of pocket? How many times have I done this in videos? Check that story out. It's a very good one. Another thing I thought was worthy of mentioning was the Zillow touring agreement. Personally, my vibes on this is I'm not wild about Zillow or Realtor or anybody, Realtor.com. We do a lot of business with them. I'm not wild about the idea of them putting out touring agreements. I think that should be left to broker owners, but I understand that they're trying to be helpful. And I don't knock it for them. I heard the state of Virginia had a problem with the form. I don't love every aspect of the form, but I'm not going to pick it apart. I give them credit for trying to be helpful, and I wouldn't be surprised if other portals came out with stuff as well. Next, I mentioned August 17th is the deadline for when everything has to switch over. So August 17th is the day, or before that commissions fall out of MLS. All right, now, lastly, but very importantly, I'm going to go over an update on the litigations. So, home services settled. I've been cheering them on all along, and I mean what I said. They held out the longest, but I think the gentleman's name is Greg Abel. He was sitting at the other end of the table of Mr. Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, at their shareholder meeting last week, and Greg said, we got swept up in everyone else's settlements. And he didn't say it, don't quote me on those exact words, but it was something to that effect. And you know what? I agree with that, and I can understand that. And I'll say to several agent friends out there who've texted me from other companies, literally every company that has settled, I've received a text or 10 from agents saying, I'm so mad they settled. I know that if it was you, you never would have settled. Why did my company settle? Folks, once a few companies settle, it makes it hard not to settle. And Michael Ketchmark knew that. He's a brilliant trial attorney. He knew what he was doing. The fact is the defendants lost the case. I've talked about it 100 times. I'm not going to relitigate it, but it is what it is. They settled it. They want to put it in the rear view mirror. I've heard President Kevin Sears say that very well. He says, hey, there's a reason your windshield is much bigger than the rear view mirror. I heard him say that in Arizona at 2 conferences we were at. T360 was great, and he did a great job, and Housing Wire as well, and he's right. So, hey, 6 months from now, I don't have to do any more videos on this, right? They're a little exhausting. Next, article, one thing I want to point out that Warren Buffett said at that shareholder meeting. He says, I believe the commission structures over the years have worked out very well. That's from a legend, a business legend who has more knowledge on business and antitrust and all of these different things in multiple businesses than any of us. And he said it worked out very well. I thought it was really cool. He also said, hey, I've never negotiated with any agent. The few times I've sold, I thought that was kind of cute to hear that out of such a legendary investor at, 90-something years old. So I thought that was interesting. Couple more things I want to mention. There's still other cases being filed. There's still other pressure. There's a new home buyer case that got filed in Florida on May 1st against Home Services. I think that's absurd. Another money grab. Redfin settled for $9 million. Element settled for $18 million. Rip-off that they have to pay that. But hey, I should actually be happy. The Nozelec MLS PIN case, that's important specifically to us, my real estate agent friends in the Massachusetts and New England area. We all use MLS PIN. I just want to mention there that the plaintiffs and the defendants, their last day to respond to the Department of Justice statement of interest that came out 2 months ago is May 24th. So it'll be interesting to see what they file, and it'll be interesting to see how that gets settled. There's some talk of that getting swept up in the larger settlement. There's also talk of it not. So I don't know. It's interesting to me that they tried to settle this last summer, and the judge was about to agree to it after the second attempt, and the DOJ came in and threw a curveball at it. So we shall see. Yesterday, Judge Bowe in the Sitzer-Burnett case did agree to approve the settlement for KW, RE/MAX, and Anywhere Real Estate. I'm not surprised he agreed to settle it and to approve the settlement, because that's what the parties want. I mean, all the parties on all sides want that, and I don't want to screw that up. If that's what the defendants want, good for them. They want to put it behind them. I obviously have a tougher attitude on the situation, but I'm sure they did what they thought was best for them. All right, folks, that was a long update. I hope you all learned a lot. I hope that I better clarified everything. And the last thing I'll say to Rob Hahn is, when you say that I'm steering, or you say I don't know what I'm talking about, and you put lies out in tweets, I do take that personal. So you can put out that you don't take it personal. I do. Get your facts straight? Fine. Have your opinions against me? Fine. I've got people all over the nation that have opinions for and against me. But when you put things that aren't true out there, that's when you're going to hear from me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good luck, folks. I'll be back with another video next month when I'm sure there's some other drama.